Live. It is Wednesday, Wedding Hero Wednesday, not Friday live. So I've got to catch myself right off the bat. I'm doing my best to reproduce the thumbnail because the purpose of what we're doing today is to go through my book Wedding Hero, Wedding Zero to Ceremony Hero. I jump straight to hero, and that's what I want to do to you, with you, for you, is bring you up to Wedding Hero, even if it is your very first time. Welcome to the usual suspects in the chat. I never take it for granted that incredible seasoned veterans of the wedding industry are here, members of Unboring Wedding Academy and pro and certified members, etc., etc., etc. So thrilled you're here. So it was good to see Mark here. Mark was up all night, apparently, highlighting the book, dog-earing the pages, maybe. I have a hardcover version, so maybe that's a little more difficult. But Mark, awesome to see you. I should have said you didn't have to do any homework. It is kind of a book club style as we work through. This is the first session of working through this page by page, essentially, and that I'm not going to read it, but I am just going to kind of cover the material in the same sequence. I am rereading my own book and quite impressed with it, I must say so myself. Like, if I didn't read this, I'd be really happy to have it. And so hopefully it's the same with you, Mark, but you don't need to do homework next week if you don't want. I love that you have a copy. I know you're on board. As Paul said further down, Paul was integral to reviewing this book when it first came out. Everybody who vetted this and read it and reviewed it on Amazon when it first came out contributed to this being a #1 bestseller. And so I'm super grateful to you. And that was kind of before I was coming on here and doing lives. This came out in 2021. It has been that recent since I've been jumping on here and having a lot of fun with you lives. Typically, we do a Friday live question of the week where I answer a very granular, specific issue asked by wedding officiants in my audience, or things that I see, questions I get asked all the time. But I think I shared in maybe members' office hours. We have office hours every week. Not every week, every month. The last Tuesday of every month. Got that, Mark? The last Tuesday of every month, unless otherwise posted. I was going to say, I feel like that should be a question of the week I get, is when is members' office hours for Unboring Wedding Academy? Just come on here on a Friday and say, it's the last Tuesday of every month. Okay, bye everybody. But that would be a little bit weird. But I do get that question a lot, which means it's on me to communicate it better or post that somewhere or something. So I did mention, though, I've kind of lost my train of thought. Actually, what I was mentioning on Friday Live. I wish I could rewind this and figure out what it was I was saying. I mentioned a lot of things on Friday Live. But this is what I mentioned. I went away. I went away on a retreat with my wife. We always go away start of the year. It's our wedding anniversary. But we also look back on our 2020, whatever it was last year, and look forward. And I saw that on my calendar for the last 2 years, on my goal list, was to go live and to work through this book. And I have not done that. And so I said, well, I can't come back to this little retreat we do next year and see it sitting there for a third year in a row untouched. I did not want to do that. So I'm doing this because I do know it's very helpful to people. Maybe you don't want to read this. Maybe you're not a cantor Mark who sits there late at night with a highlighter. Hopefully it's useful even if you do. This is meant to be a reference. But I also want to have this kind of sitting on my YouTube channel. And this is another frequently asked question I get, which could also be its own question of the week on Friday. Mark, if I miss the live, how do I watch? Can I watch it again? Is there a replay? You can go to my YouTube channel and watch every single live by just clicking the live tab when you're on my channel. There's videos, there's a bunch of stuff. If you click live, you'll see all the Friday lives. You'll see all of these because I know people just want to rewatch these and have them all in one place. And so that is what I'm doing. I'm hoping to kind of build this library up, okay? So here's what's going to happen for about 30-ish minutes every Wednesday. I'm going to pop on here at this time. I do have a plan or a goal of how many pages I'd like to get through, but you are also determining that based on how many questions you ask or things like that. If your question is a bit of a spoiler for something I'm about to say or going to say, because like I said, I am working through this page by page. I will let you know. I'll say, well, we're going to get there. For example, I get asked a lot, where's book 2 and book 3, Mark? I just got asked this morning by Canner Mark. Did I think you said, Mark, did I sleep through books 2 and 3? Wink, wink. That's a spoiler. I'll let you know because that's literally in the intro of this book that we're going to cover today. Okay. So I just want to pop through the chat here before we get started on page 1. Again, I'm not going to read this. I'm going to kind of talk through it. If you're not on my list, I want you to know that you can get the spreadsheet. Wow, the camera really wigged out there. You can get the spreadsheet as a free resource, unboringweddingacademy.com/spreadsheet. That is typically exclusive to Unboring Wedding Academy. But as we move through, because this book is about planning with your couple, you can do that by hand. You can do it on the back of a napkin if you want. But I have provided the spreadsheet that I use for every single wedding I officiate. And you can get your hands on that too and jump on my list at the same time so you get notified about lives like this and other good things when Unboring Wedding Academy goes on sale or things like that. So feel free to do that as well. Paul is here from Trumbull. Thank you for being one of those OGs, early reviewers. Mark, you do not need to wear a superhero costume. You are already a hero. As I'm sure you know, your couples have told you. John is here from Massachusetts. Amazing. Doris, I love how you say you're new to the officiant community because you purchased Academy, I think, years ago, before it was even on the new platform. But you just came inside Pro. I'm literally planning on shooting a welcome video today, welcoming you to Pro and letting you know what that means when you have both courses, etc. So thrilled you're here. Reverend Claudia, kick ass, you are here. Thank you for your Instagram post recently about being an Unboring Wedding certified officiant. Really, really appreciate that. I know you're crushing it, Ontario. Alive down here in Jacksonville, Florida. Good to hear you're alive. Happily mad. Bob is here. Good to see you from Austin. And Latina, speaking of certified, we just got you up on unboringwedding.com/certified today. Everyone, applause for Latina. She is the newly certified member. That means she got Academy, she got Pro, passed all the assessments, got her certification, did all the things. So amazing to see you here. So proud to have you on that website with so many other amazing members. Tamara's here from Loves Park, Illinois. I got it right this time. Last Friday, I really butchered what that was about. Clint, good morning from Calgary. Amazing. Well, okay, this is Maryland. So Clint/Maryland, very new wedding officiant. Amazing. Prepping to do your second wedding in June. Congrats. We do have members inside our community out in Calgary, out in the Alberta area. So that's amazing. Chances are you'll come across an Unboring Wedding officiant or commissioner in your journey out there. Love that you're here with us. Mitzi, oh my gosh, you've been here. Are you in your car, Mitzi? You're able to chat now. Good to see you. However and whenever you are in your town or city, whatever. I know, Mitzi, you're very busy. But thanks for having me in your ear or on your screen. Judy's here from Michigan. It's amazing to see so many people who can't make it on Fridays. I'm recognizing all these wonderful names. Francis is here from Muskoka. Amazing. Yes, Mitzi says, go Latina. Amazing. That's right. Cheer, cheer, cheer. Beverly's here from Scotland. Amazing. I was just teaching my son this morning about Loch Ness. And so I had to put Scotland on a map for him and show him what's going on out there. The context was Canada has its own lake monster. One in New Brunswick, one in Okanagan. So, but I was teaching him about the original Nessie, of course. So good to see you here, Beverly. Okay, we should get to it. One day I'll actually remember to put my name in instead of my handle. Well, I'm going to keep calling you Happily Mad until you otherwise identify yourself. Mitzi's at her kitchen table. Amazing. Awesome. Jeff is saying thank you to Cantor. Mike, the Mike J Show, wedding officiant in Cali. Awesome. Good to see you here. And I love how your handle is what, a YouTube show? So good to see you. Hope things are well in California. We did hear about the crazy torrential rain, and I know that's no joke. We're used to lots of averse weather here on the East Coast next to the ocean, but that looked pretty serious. So hope you're safe and hope all is well. I want to get started here, and I don't want to have to keep saying, as I say in the book, as I say in the book. So for those of you who've read the book, you're going to be like, wow, this is repetitive. Yeah, because I'm just literally going to start talking through this book. First page of the book, I talk about something that I saw early in my career, and I do talk about my first wedding. We'll get there. But essentially, what I noticed when I sat down to write this book, even before that, when I sat down to create a course for wedding officiants, way back in 2017 was when I started shooting the first one and put it out on the internet. What I noticed was kind of two kinds of people, two kinds of wedding officiants. As I started officiating weddings and bumping into new officiants, people asking me, Mark, how are you killing it in Toronto in a saturated market? How are you doing so well? Can you teach me what to do? In forums, I was casting about, trying to figure out where officiants were, learn from them. People wanted to learn from me. And I started noticing kind of two kinds of people. And the first was the wing it kind of officiants. Now, this is a bit less common in Canada because it's so strict in Canada to be an officiant. You have to either be clergy or a lawyer. And so you can't just be kind of a first timer friend and relative. Those are the people that I love helping and aim most of my messaging and my services and my products to. But I noticed that there were a heck of a lot of wing it people saying, I don't know much about a wedding, but I'm just going to kind of go up there and say some stuff, run them through some vows. It'll be super casual, super impromptu. We'll see what happens. At the end of a few minutes, they'll be married. We'll have some chuckles, and we'll see how it goes. And as somebody who tries to be kind of polished and prepared in front of a crowd, that I could not relate at all. And I know couples tend to be frustrated by that approach. It's not a good one, but a lot of people had no idea what else to do back in 2015, 2016, when this was a bit of a new phenomenon, friends, relatives, first timers officiating. There was just kind of like I'm not a professional, so I might as well just go stand up there and kind of say, do you, LOL, let's move on. I know personally that a wedding ceremony can be so much more than that. And so I encouraged a little something more, a higher standard. That's the first kind of person. The second kind of person was the paste it officiant. And that was the people who are reaching out to me and everywhere else on the internet. And I looked at Google Analytics for what people were searching for. And of course, it's wedding ceremony. What's the next word? Script, right? People just give me a script. I'll stand up there. I'll just paste. You know what? I won't even paste. I'll just print it. I'll just give me the words from weddings from days of yore, 300-year-old language. I don't care. Just I'm going to stand up there rigidly and I'm going to read what a million other officiants have said before me and just write off the page. And at the end, they'll be married. And I won't need to actually know anything or learn anything about the wedding ceremony because I'll just work through whatever thing I pasted. And maybe there'll be another thing for me to paste here and there. I can cobble something together. So it's the wing its and the paste its. And I noticed that really early on. And as somebody who myself started as a new officiant and was really terrified. I started as my first wedding that I officiated was when I was a minister. And so it was part of the job that frankly I hoped nobody would ever ask me to do. I graduated from seminary. I really liked the heady study parts of the job, that kind of thing. But I did not want to do a wedding. The whole idea just because of what I'd seen. I don't want to stand up there. I don't want to either wing it and I don't want to either paste it. So what alternative is there? I won't go too deep into my story, but I was really scared mostly about wedding protocol. Okay. That's what was most terrifying to me was this sense of like, there's a proper way to do weddings. And I have no idea what they are. And I don't really care to learn, frankly. It sounded like a lot of trouble, but there must be a right way. And I did not know where to turn. People who read this book, people who take the time to watch a video like this, uh, you are investing in doing this incredibly well. You are, in a sense, wasting time, not not in the pejorative sense of like it's no good, but it takes a certain amount of chutzpah to kind of sit there and just say, I don't want to just get this done. So when I got asked my first wedding, I cast it about, but I didn't really know what to do. And I didn't feel like I was investing my time well. But when you read a book like this or come on video like this in the chat, you are taking the time to be the very best you can be. And that reminds me of one of the jobs that I had way back when was I was facilitating a contest of teams. And the contest was to race out into the desert and mine the mountain for gold and come back before time ran out in a certain amount of turns, and whoever had the most gold at the end of the game with the set number of turns before time ran out was the winner. And so I was responsible for facilitating one of the teams of many. There are about 25 teams. And so the marshal got up before it started. This was about 2010 or so. And she started talking to the teams about what they needed to do, what was best, and talking about a bunch of stuff. And I watched as the team started huddling together, even as she was talking, and coming up with their strategy. She said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to race out into the desert. We are going to mine the gold. Whoever comes back with the most gold wins. And they just all started talking. They wanted to roll up their sleeves and get at it. Let's not waste any time. Let's get to it. So the game started. Turn one happened. And of course, some teams just shot out into the desert right away. They're just like, let's get out there before anybody else. And off they went. Turn 4, turn 5 came along. Half the teams were in the desert now. Some of them by turn 10, they just grabbed whatever gold they could and came back. Others turn 8, 9. I think there were about 20 turns. By turn 8, 9-ish, a lot of the teams ran out of food and just died in the desert. By turn 13, 14, a lot of the teams ran out of water, died in the desert. Turn 16, 17, some were making it back now with a little bit of gold. Most of those who are left got all their supplies wiped out in a sandstorm. And my table, for some reason, I take no credit for this, it was just luck, they made it back with the maximum amount of gold that they could safely collect to win the game. Now, at the end, the marshal got up and addressed all the teams that died. And I do tell it that way specifically for suspense in the book. This was not literally rushing out into the desert. This was, of course, a corporate learning experience in a giant room for Tim Hortons. So I worked for a company that did experiential training sessions, corporate training sessions, an amazing experience and company. And basically, the marshal got up and started scolding all the dead teams and said, this was so easy. This was not rocket science. But why did only one team out of 25 win? And why did most of you die? Well, she said, what most of you don't know is that when I got up and started talking at the beginning of this contest, you immediately started huddling and talking, and many of you ignored me because you thought taking action as quickly as possible was the best thing to do. We're action oriented. Let's do this. Let's just do everything we can. And she said, that was your fatal mistake. You not only did you not do as well as you could have, you died. And I just never forgot this. And that is the part of experiential learning. But she said the one team that won, now the team that I was facilitating, they weren't the only ones to do this, but they were the best ones to do it. And they did it the longest. The marshal said to the room, what I was saying and having to talk over so many of you who were already hubbubbing and making your plans was that you had the option to call your facilitator over and they would give you a card. And on that card would be local wisdom from the wise man. The wise man has been out in the desert. The wise man has been to the gold mines. The wise man has made it back. So the wise man, the local wise man in this game theme, will tell you incredibly valuable information about where to go on the board, which turns, when there's a sandstorm coming, how much food and water to take, how much gold you need to collect. Otherwise, you don't know what's too much, what's too little, and make it back safely. My team, because I got to facilitate, I got firsthand to watch what it was like as the turns went by. My team got every possible wise man card. I think I was holding 5 cards. So that means the first 5 turns, they asked, hit me again, Mark, hit me again. They asked for all 5 cards. Now, by turn 5, some teams were like already at the mines and they were like whooping it up. You could hear them, woo, we're getting the gold. And my table was kind of looking around nervously. Like, I don't know if we're doing the right, I don't know if we're doing the right thing here. There was just that sense of like, we're getting killed because people are already at the mines and coming back, and we're still sitting at the starting block. That turned out to be the winning strategy. And I never forgot what it was like to see their angst as they did that, but they just kind of by consensus said, we need as much information as we can to understand what's possible, what's best, what are the pitfalls, what might wipe us out, because we want to do the absolute best we can. That is what taking the time to read a book like this is doing. That is what taking the time to come on a live video on a Wednesday, if it's your first time. Again, I see so many incredible members who I know are crushing it, and some have hundreds of weddings under their belt. So I love that you're here, and I don't take it for granted. I'm super honored. You know this. You know that investing in wedding ceremonies, what's out there, what's possible, what you can do, best strategies, is going to lead to incredible success. And so back to my first time, I was bumbling around, worried about protocol. That was my big worry at first. But as I started to officiate more and more, I survived my first ceremony, thankfully. I don't even think there was a wedding planner. Otherwise, I would have been found out to be one of those absolutely helpless officiants. Again, didn't love officiating. But as I started officiating more and more, I got, I started to fake it a little bit less and defer at the rehearsal to the wedding planners. And the wedding planners, a lot of the time, I would notice how loosey-goosey they were. They'd say, hey, bride, do you want to, what do you want to do? Do you want to stand on this side or do you want to stand on that side? Or do you want the parents to be on this side or do you want to be on that side? Or do we want to switch this? We want to switch that. And I was like, oh, wait a second. I thought weddings were such a sacred, all the element, you couldn't change anything, otherwise it's barely a wedding. And I realized, oh my gosh, in the 21st century, we're being pretty relaxed. There's no scary protocol. It's okay. And so that allowed me in the ceremony to relax a little bit more too. And as I started planning weddings with couples, that's when I started to realize, wait a second, I can bend protocol. Then I need to hone a system where I want to ask them what they want to do. This seems almost quaint in 2024 with TikTok and trends and things like that. But back in 2012, 2011, when I was starting, it was not a thing that I knew existed, mostly because we didn't have social media videos and things like that in the same way. So this, to me, was kind of the start of that zeitgeist of, hey, wait a second, there's no right and wrong way to do a wedding. At this point, almost anything goes. So the good news that I want to bring to you, and with this book, is you can jettison the idea that there is a proper right way. Now, we do have a starting place. We do want to know traditional conventions. That's next week. We'll get more into that part of the book. But you can relax in terms of, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? That's why sitting down with your couple and planning the ceremony that they want is absolutely so crucial. Okay, so that's why I want to just give the overview now. I end the introduction of the book by talking about exactly what the purpose of this book and these sessions are. 2 things are going to be happening at once as you read this book and as you go through these sessions. And it's this. First of all, I want to teach you exactly what a wedding ceremony looks like in terms of kind of a traditional framework. We need to understand where a ceremony starts, what it looks like, but then we can start bending, making it our own. So the first thing is you want to learn about a wedding ceremony. what it looks like, what others have done before. The second thing that's going to be happening at the same time, and this is what I was lacking when I started, is you want to be a guide for your couple in the planning ceremony session. So the best you can, and again, I help first timers who know nothing about wedding ceremonies. They come to me, they're terrified. They get on Boring Wedding Academy, they read this book, and then whatever method or mode that you consume that way, you become a guide. The more that you learn, you can then sit down with your couple and say, okay, here are the 75, that's no exaggeration, details that I need to ask you about and run by you. And even on top of that, is there anything you want to add, etc.? Again, there's no protocol or rules. There is the way something's been done, and we need a starting point, but then we can start adapting, changing, rolling with new trends or things like that. But the starting point is you want to learn how to do it and what it looks like so you know what to bend. And then you want to be that guide that your couple can say, oh my gosh, I really, really trust my officiant. They seem to know what they're doing. And good news, officiant, you don't need to fake it till you make it here. You can be very forthcoming and say, look, I'm consulting a book. I'm doing the best I can. What have you learned? It's collaborative with your couple, but you do want to be able to sometimes, like the wedding workshops that I do with my couple, they don't even know what they don't know. And as an officiant, you don't want to know what you don't know. You want to be able to guide them through at least those little 75 bits of detail all along the way, whether it's processional elements and things like that. I got a question from a member earlier this week about, wait a minute, who holds the flowers while one is smoothing out the dress, all that stuff. And if you are new, you're not even thinking about when, if a bride gets to the front and has flowers but needs the dress smoothed out, etc., etc. That's the kind of thing that at least on Boring Wedding Academy members are thinking about, that level of detail, so that everybody is prepared on the wedding day. So that's what this book and these sessions are going to do over the next few Wednesdays, probably months of Wednesdays. Who are we kidding? Going to be lots of Wedding Hero Wednesdays. You can wear a costume if you want. That's optional. But this book is going to teach you how a ceremony works, these sessions, and turn you into a guide. At the end of the book and at the end of these sessions, you are a guide for your couple. So the book and these sessions are going to be broken up into 3 parts. First part is the basics of a wedding ceremony. The 10 parts, and now I have YouTube videos about that kind of thing. So if you want to keep yourself in suspense, wait till next week. I know some of you have ordered the book, so it's up to you whether you read ahead like Mark did or not. But you want to learn the 10 traditional classic parts of a ceremony, I call them. And then, of course, we want to know what to add, what to change, add our own spin, add our own flavor. That's fine. But just know where to start. That's part 1. Part 2 then is going to be systematically working through that spreadsheet, unboringweddingacademy.com/spreadsheet, or Unit 1 of Unboring Wedding Academy. That is a resource in there. And that's a spreadsheet I bring to every wedding. I've built it up over years and years and years. No stone left unturned in there, to the best of my ability, walking your couple through every single detail of the ceremony so that nothing is missed. The weeks, part 2 of this book, and once we get to those weeks, which I think will be by week 3 or 4, because part 1 is not that long, the 10-part overview, we'll probably cover that in 1 week. Once we get into that, that is the nitty gritty. That's where people say, I did not even know this stuff that I did not know. And as a new officiant, I don't want you to be in that place. I want you to know as much as you can. The third part of this book and these sessions then is how to take all that raw data and turn it into a script. I have some advice on that, best practices on how to turn around data in a spreadsheet and give that over to your couple and write the script that they want, okay? That's book 1. Book 2, to answer your questions, I plan to write it. So I had to write book 1. Here's the thing about writing a series, and novelists do this. You know you're going to write 2 more books, so you have to write as though they already exist. And so I think it's because when I start the book, I say, here's what book 2 covers, and here's what book 3 covers. They're literally not written yet, okay? I'm working on it. I've spent a lot of time building Academy, building Pro, building the Love Story Caster. Now I'm building a software ceremony management suite for wedding officiants, and I'm adding to Academy. So, also trying to write these books. I'm getting to it. Book 2 is going to be essentially how to write the story, all the best practices of getting the script, rehearsing the wedding, that kind of thing, showing up on the wedding day and being super confident, and all the things that you might face. That's book 2. Book 3 will be / is, if you read this book, it says it is the business side of officiating. Now, you might say, well, do you have that material already, Mark? Yes. This book essentially is stage 1 of Unboring Wedding Academy. So if you're an Academy member and you watch the videos of stage 1, you've essentially consumed the content of this book. Book 2, how to create the best face-melting wedding ceremony, love story based, all that stuff, be a super ready presence on the day. That's stages 2 to 6 in Academy. So if you're really, jonesing to get through the content of a book that doesn't even exist yet, that's stages 2 to 6 of Academy. Those of you who are in Academy, you already know that stuff. And book 3 is essentially the content of my course, Unboring Wedding Pro. That is the business side of officiating. That's the professional side of officiating. Everything you will need to think about and encounter as somebody who goes out into the marketplace and officiating weddings for money for couples. Okay, so there's a lot to consider there: sales, copywriting, pitching yourself, website stuff, dealing with vendors. That book might be 3 times as long as this one. I might finish it in 2030. We'll see, but that's the plan. So I had to start with that BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal, but one book at a time. Right now, we're working through Wedding Zero to Ceremony Hero. I hope to get that other second book published by next year and onward and upward from there. I'm now going to look in the chat and see what's going on. Like I say, I want to keep these sessions to about 30 minutes. I try to do that with the live, so when people see the video and see how long it is, they don't feel like it's some big arduous thing to get through. Okay, so let me see if there's any questions here. Love the input and the wisdom. Sandra's here from Vancouver Island. Mark says, it truly amazes me how you've captured some of the finer, subtle, not so subtle logistics, sand traps, and quicksand, all bypassed by asking the right questions beforehand. Press that metaphor, Mark. I love it. The metaphor of running out into the desert and getting all the gold. That is a lesson that I took with me when I worked for that company back in 2010. All through what's possible, I need to find out as much as I can. Otherwise, I might die in the desert. Carla's here from Italy. That's amazing. Good to see you. Let's see. Mike J. Mitzi, it's been a crazy year, hit with an infection, your ear, tonsillitis, compromised airways, lost your sister. My goodness, I'm sorry to hear all this, Mike J. That is a rough year. Bell's palsy. My goodness, my thoughts are with you, and I hope it's a better year, and especially with all this crazy weather. I'm seeing hit thumbs up. Agreed, Mark. Tamara says, I haven't performed a ceremony yet. I want to make sure all my bases are covered. Hey, you are consulting the grizzled old wise man and all these incredible officiants in the chat as well. So amazing, Tamara. Good to see you. Your Lives and Unboring site has been helpful. That's very, very good. That's why I'm here. And that's amazing about the spectrum of members who've been along here for years. I don't want to name names, but Reverend Claudia, right there in the comment above you, as I see, is again, one of the OG members. 2018, I think, Claudia. It was just amazing. And then we have Tamara right next saying, hey, I haven't performed a ceremony yet. I love that. Doris, who bought the course years ago and now is saying you're dipping your toes into it. This is why I'm here, because you are going to make couples and their friends and their family and their guests so happy. As the grizzled wise man, I can say, and this is what got me into this, I know how great a wedding ceremony can be. It always frustrates me and saddens me if I go to a wedding as a guest and it's just like watching paint dry. I'm just like, when you talk to the guests, when you tell their love story, everybody loves it. It's like if you only saw really terrible birthday parties your whole life and then went to a good one, you'd be like, I can't believe how fun a birthday party can be. Some parties even have cake. That's how I feel about weddings. I want them to be so much better because the experience is fantastic. Okay. Judy just bought the book. That's amazing. And you are a longtime Unboring Wedding Academy member. So thank you. It is a good resource to have on hand. Or just, I know Sabra, for example, is just training notaries, and she asked me if she could give away some of my books to the notaries when she spoke there, and so she's a member of Unboring Wedding Academy as well. And so I said, absolutely. So whether you've been doing this for a long time, it's a great resource book, and hopefully some funny stories in there as well. I've never been able to copy and paste from an ebook. Yeah, ebooks. I don't know. I'm not into ebooks. I can't help you with ebooks. I need the paper. I need to feel it. I've got to grow. I never plan to move away from this house, which is great when you know you're going to live, when you're planning on living in the same house for your whole life. You can just collect books with impunity and never worry about having to move them. Last chance if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll pop off and say, I won't be live this Friday because I'll be skiing. There's only a few ski days in the year that I can do with my family when there's no blizzards or it's overly cold or too hot or whatever. So it's looking good this Friday. I won't be on Friday live. Planning to be here next week where we'll get into part 1 of the book. Basically, the overview of the 10-part classic traditional ceremony, which we are not going to be a slave to replicating, and we're not going to be beholden to that, but it's really good to know where to start, have your bearings, have an understanding. Again, you're not going to be like the paste-its who just read through a ceremony, have no clue, no roadmap at all about what's going on or what they might change. You want to really understand the ins and outs of a ceremony, and we'll talk more about that next week. Okay. Just had our own personal wedding story published for the 3rd time. Someday would like to hear yours. My wedding story. Oh, that's really, that would be something. I told my wedding story, my wife and I, our personal wedding story, how we met, first date, proposal. I told that live on stage at Wedding MBA in Las Vegas a couple of years ago. I did it as a demonstration of how interesting, even at a conference, a love story is. And so, yeah, I did it live. It was really fun. And I am looking forward to being at Wedding MBA again this year. If you want to join all these amazing members inside Unboring Wedding Academy, do that. Unboringweddingacademy.com. You get access to our love story caster, which of course writes our love story, your love story for you. You just paste your couple's answers in, hit a button, and it generates the story. I'm always creating resources to make life better for you as the grizzled wise man. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Sorry, I'm seeing script template. Mark, did I sleep through your answer? Script template. I'm sorry. Is there a script template with logistics? Probably. Is there a script template with logistics? Inside Academy, in the resources section, there's, of course, my full script template, and stage 2 is all about that. You've been a member for years and years. So, yeah, you've got my spreadsheet in stage 1. You've got my script template in stage 2. All that stuff is at your fingertips, Mark, as a member in each of the stages. But then just go to the resources section. You'll see all the course resources there as well, okay? I have got to bounce, and so I will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining. Like I said, I don't take this for granted. Love that you're here. I will see you next week, Wedding Heroes. Have a great week and a weekend. Marry on.